introducing folks.
Oh, thank you. Sometimes I do. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you for being here this weekend.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Awesome.
It's nice to be in Knoxville, good people, and I was running around town square last night a little bit, just people watching. It's really nice to be in a place where I feel comfortable. Yeah.
I was going to say, if you like people watching, there is not a better place than being at a convention, because you will see people cosplays. Is that surreal for you to see people dressed up as some of your characters, like the Punisher? What is that like?
That's a real nice compliment. It's lovely to see that. And sometimes they get real particular about the skull, and it has to be the right skull for the right show. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the folks. It's imitation is the greatest form of flattery or something. So I'll take it.
So growing up, what were some of your fandoms? Were you into comic books
There's
at all?
the Green Lantern right there.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, that's looking good, buddy.
You better come to the costume contest later.
I see some bunny ears over there. That looks good. Great.
I love it. Yeah. So were you into comic books growing up? What were some of your fandoms before getting to play?
I was a total comic book geek. Yes, absolutely. I grew up absolutely raiding the local comic book shop in, we had one in Bethesda, Maryland. It was called Barbarian Books, and they sold used books and comics and old comics, and I used to haunt that place every chance I got. Bought up all the books I could. I grew up in the 80s. I guess I was a kid in the 80s, so there's a good Punisher t-shirt right on.
Yes, sir.
And the 1980s found some great comics called Twisted Tales and Alien Worlds. They were by this company called Pacific Comics. They were out of California, but they had the best artists, and they were all like serious, Alien Worlds was like 4 science fiction stories. Twisted Tales would be like 4 horror stories. Great art, great writing by this guy named Bruce Jones, who wrote most of them, and those were my absolute favorite. And then I got into Mad Magazine, which is still around. Is Mad still around? But I was around, when they were putting it out. When I was a kid, there were the original guys who started in the 50s, and it was actually originally a comic book. I think for the first 9, 10 issues or so, it was, and then they traded for the magazine format. So I fell in love with the old Mads. They made fun of everything, Super Duper Man, and all kinds of great spoofs on famous characters and stuff. And that, I didn't really get into superheroes. I had a few Batman, thought he was cool, but I never really got into this whole superhero Marvel. And the reason was because it felt like a big drawn out soap opera, which was novel, Stan Lee invented that whole thing with Fantastic Four, and they're bickering amongst each other, and it brought this new life into superhero comics. I just never, personally, I was much more into war, horror, sci-fi, and then, of course, underground comics. When I discovered those, that blew my mind. That's Robert Crumb, that's the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers by Gilbert Sheldon. They did some badass stuff. Zap comics, and I really got into collecting that. There's a great one called Corn Fed comics. It's just, and they're great. The artists are like weird, and they blew my mind, because they subversive and talked, they were pot smokers and all the kind of stuff your mom definitely does not want you checking out when you're 12, 13 years old. And fell in love with that stuff. So they came after me for the Punisher. I originally turned it down because I was like, I'm just not a superhero type of person. It's just not my, and I was younger, and I was like, I'm only going to do movies that I would want to watch, and that kind of thing. And which, I still am that way, I guess. But you know, they finally called me up and they said, listen, man, the Punisher's not a superhero. He's an anti-hero, you know? He doesn't have any superpowers. He's got big guns and he kills people and bad guys. And that's what kind of got me to take a second look at it and do the movie and really fell in love with the fans of Punisher. There was a website that was new at the time. It was called Superhero Hype. You guys heard of that? Superhero Hype? Yeah? Are they still around or we don't know? But yeah, that was the forum where you could go on and just talk, and it was all comics at the time because there weren't that many movies that had been done or TV shows and all the old stuff. But Superhero Hype had a thread on all the favorite characters, and so I started checking out Superhero Hype about Frank Castle and the Punisher, and that's sort of where I learned all the things that everybody loved about the character. And I read that religiously, like every day while I was working out and preparing to do the role. So that's where I got my love of Frank Castle and that world, and then fought to make that as close to the comics as we could, you know. Unfortunately, a movie called Batman hadn't come out yet with Christopher Nolan's Batman. When that one, I think, came out like a year later or something. And that's when everybody realized that you could do a dark superhero movie. But when Punisher came out, nobody thought that was a thing. And I was like, no, they're gonna love it, because I was reading Superhero Hype and I knew what folks wanted to see. But you know, the business, the corporate people were like, yeah, I don't see that working. Comic book movie, you know? I was like, no, this is the opposite of that. This is the antidote to superhero movies. And you know, we were just early to the party there.
I think you started the party. I mean, I loved the movie. I loved your portrayal. And since we're talking about comic books, I see that you also co-wrote your own comic book miniseries, Bad Planet.
I did. You know, doing the Punisher. By the way, how many people have seen my short film, Dirty Laundry? Yeah, that's a few. And so anybody who likes the Punisher and all that, it's on YouTube. It's called, just go on there and type in Dirty Laundry. And it's about 10 minutes long, and I'm very proud of that because I sort of shepherded that to life, came up with the idea, the short, and brought in buddies to write it and direct it, pay for it. So that was really a creation that I'm proud of. I met a bunch of comic book artists and writers and all those guys at Comic-Con San Diego. Promoting the Punishers, but you know, while they're all wanting me to hang out with the movie people, I was wanting to hang out with comic book people and check out all the art and all that, and that's when I got a bunch of guys together and we started our own comic book company. It's called Raw Studios, and we did a couple of science fiction books, true to form, and one's called Alien Pig Farm 3000. Very proud of that one. It takes place in Kentucky, and it's these two brothers, and they're making moonshine, and their still blows up, and it reveals a buried spaceship that's been there for like 400 years, and it wakes up the creatures inside, and the creatures start stealing the farmers' pigs to eat. And so the guys get together and they gotta, you know, kill the aliens and keep them from eating their pigs. We had a lot of fun with that. That was gonna be a movie for a little while. For some reason we didn't get very far.
I'd like to see it. I think that'd be fun. Well, you were talking about wanting to do projects that you're passionate about, and you had mentioned to me that in September you have a film that comes out that stars you and your daughter called Dig. So
that's right.
Can you tell us about working with your daughter? That's so awesome.
I didn't even know she was an actor until she's like, Dad, I want to audition for this movie. And it was a movie about father and a daughter, and they go through something terrible, and then they go through something terrible again. They get kidnapped by some bad guys, played by one of them, Emil Hirsch, who's a wonderful actor. And that's called Dig, and that comes out September 23rd. Very proud of that one. My daughter auditioned for the movie, and submitted it just like anybody else, and and she was fantastic. And the director called me up, and the writer and the producers, they were all like, "She can act, what the hell? And she's your daughter." All right. And it turns out she did a great job. And now she's a little actor. I mean, they say sometimes it skips a generation, talent, but not with her. So very proud of her. And now she just did a movie in Brooklyn, New York. We filmed that, and she's auditioning and getting the door slammed in her face like every other actor that goes out there and tries to get a gig. Saying probably I'd say about 400 to 1, something like that. In other words, 400 doors slam in your face for every one that opens as an actor. And so you got to develop a thick skin, But she certainly got what it takes. Very proud of her. And Dig's a pretty good little movie. Can't remember where it comes out, but it'll be. Oh, it's in theaters in New York and LA, but like everything now, it's streaming on one of the streamers. Shouldn't be too hard to find.
We'll find it. Yeah, we will. I, of course, wanted to ask about working with the iconic Billy Crystal, and obviously he's a Yankee lover. So what was it like initially auditioning for the movie, and how long did it take for you before you felt like you could accurately swing the bat?
Yeah, that was a process. I grew up playing football, so and of course as an actor, one of the first things you learn is that anybody, producer, director, if they ever ask if you can do something, the answer is yes. You ride a horse? Yes. You ride a horse backwards and do a backflip? Yes, I can. So Billy's like, play baseball? I was like, yep. I played baseball ever since I was this tall. And then we get out there and and one of the things Billy told me at the audition, he's meeting him at his fancy office in Beverly Hills, and he's looking at me and he goes, turn around, will you? And so you always feel like you're a fucking model or something when you audition for people, and they all just like whisper in the back. I'm like, I don't know, he's 5'10". Can he dye his hair? And it turn around, here he says, so I turn around and he goes, from the back, you look just like Mickey Mantle.
I love that.
You'll notice in the movie, he does film me from the back quite a bit.
Suspicion.
So, fortunately, we had a great trainer. Reggie Smith ran a baseball camp out in the valley outside of Los Angeles, and he trained everybody. He was great. One of the true great teachers of my life was Reggie, and he taught me from the ground up, and the first thing he said was, well, of course I told him, I go, listen, dude, I have no fucking idea how to play baseball. We got 6 weeks. And he goes, well, you ain't got no bad habits. That's good, I can work with that. And he wouldn't even let me swing a bat for the first 2 weeks, maybe a week. He wouldn't even let me touch one. He had a samurai sword and a 2x4. And he'd make me balance on the 2x4 and swing a samurai sword through the air. And he'd close his eyes and he could tell what I was doing wrong from the sound that the blade made through the air. Yeah, it was awesome. He was like a sensei, He was a fucking monster. And he did. He built it up from the ground up, And it wasn't just learning to play baseball. It was learning to play baseball like Mickey Mantle. Mickey's. Everybody has a different swing. Mickey's swing. Mickey's run. Mickey got injured on it. I think it was his rookie season. He was catching a pop fly from Willie Mays. And his left cleat hit one of those sprinklers in the outfield, and he twisted his knee. So for the rest of his career, he had this slight limp, you know, and getting that fucking limp was probably the toughest thing that I had to try to do, you know. Just getting Billy made me do it over and over, hitting a home run, running, you know, taking that home run around the bases and trying to get that little limp, you know, and I'd come in and Billy be like, you know, back off on it a little bit, and I'd do it again. Make it a little bit more. I remember doing that over and over, but very proud of the work that we all did on that movie. It was back in the days when you could carry a baseball bat on an airplane. And it was before 9/11, so I'd fly to go do some press or go shoot another movie or whatever I was doing, and I'd bring my baseball bat right on the plane with my carry-on luggage. And the pilot would go, "Hey, you want me to put that behind the seat, you know, and behind the pilot's seat?" And so the pilot would put the baseball bat behind his pilot chair, and then he'd hand it back to me at the end of the flight. It was just because I was swinging that fucking thing 500 times a day in the hotel rooms. You know, trying not to hit the furniture.
Any mishaps?
Everywhere I went, you know, I took that baseball bat with me. Pretty proud of the swing that we ended up getting with that. You know, never hit a home run in Tiger Stadium. We painted Tiger Stadium, which, by the way, they tore down Tiger Stadium after we shot there, and the footage of them tearing down Tiger Stadium is part of the credits for this show I did called Hung on HBO. So you're watching Hung and you're seeing them tear down the stadium where we shot 61. I always thought that was kind of cool. Not that we lost Tiger Stadium, that's a bummer. But we painted the whole thing Yankee green. And of course, you know, my goal was to hit a home run in Tiger Stadium. I hit a lot of home runs in practice, but you know, you're getting up there and you only have, you know, as soon as you hit the ball and the swing is good, we're moving on to another shot. So I never got enough shots at it to knock one out of the park. I came close though. In the left field, I came real close. I hit the wall, left field, outfield wall. It's the closest I got.
So have you followed the sport since you did the film?
No.
Fair enough. Appreciate the honesty.
I got a lot of. I grew up in it, you know, when teams were teams and the players would stick together and the name of the team meant something because it was the same group of guys pretty much, plus or minus like one dude, year after year. And once they started trading every year, it's like a whole different team. It's like, what's the point even keeping the same name? It's like, it just became boring for me because I like the team of it, you know, and you see your team win and lose, but it's your team. I don't get that same feeling anymore.
Fair enough. So if it's okay with you, we're going to take some questions from the audience. We do have a microphone that's set up over there. Any willing victim?
They have to put themselves on the spotlight here? Does that thing float around or?
Go ahead. You just got to grab the mic. Go for it.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, good.
Check. Hey, sir, I want to say, first of all, I appreciate you being here. You know better than anybody, you have a super loyal fan base, so you spending the weekend here with us means a lot. You've been my hero since I was 12 years old when I seen The Punisher in the theaters, man. So this is a dream come true.
I appreciate that, pal. Thank you.
So if, you know, had you and Jonathan Hensley and the team of the original Punisher kept creative rights and creative control before that all went to hell, you know, can you give us any kind of idea on what a Punisher 2 that we all wanted might have looked like had you had the full-length film, you know, plot points, what it looked like right up to the point that it was canceled?
Well, we never got, there were a couple iterations of Punisher 2. One of them was with Rob Zombie directing. Wow. Which I thought would have been interesting, you know? But that was one iteration, and you know, we were batting around script ideas and trying to find the director. The Marvel folks wanted to go with a different director, and that was their choice. So it was like, who is that person going to be? And we went through a number of different sort of folks, and then I ended up with Walter Hill, who, if you guys are familiar with Walter Hill, you guys know the great Walter Hill. He directed 48 Hours. just an immensely talented motherfucker. What was it? The Driver, it was a fantastic movie. He did one with Bronson, Hard Times, I think it's called, where he plays a bare-knuckle boxer. These are great films, people. These are like the films that sculpted my childhood, right? And he was like a no-nonsense, great action, but economical, like sparse dialogue. He had a great sense of humor, but he was really good with action, and you know, he was like he's a man's director, right? And we met, we fell in love with each other, and went to the studio, and said, and Walter said, listen, I'll write it, direct it, and that'll be that. And they ended up saying no to Walter Hill for reasons that are beyond my ability to comprehend. And that's when I said, okay, well, if you're not going to make the perfect Punisher film with the perfect guy, then who else do you got? And they floated another director who hadn't really done anything in that ballpark, and so that's when I had to pull out. You know, I had to say, listen, I'm not sure if you guys really understand what it is you're doing, and therefore chances of fucking this up are pretty high. The idea that I liked, that we never really got far on, but the idea that I was pushing was there's a Punisher series called Circle of Blood, written by, I think it's Stephen Grant. Anybody know? I think his name is, well, I know his last name is Grant. And Circle of Blood is essentially the Punisher gets fucking arrested and he gets thrown into the penitentiary, and every guy in there wants to kill him because he had a hand in putting away like all these dudes. And so it was like he was going into the lion's den, and of course he put himself there on purpose because he was after this one dude that was ungettable, right? So he got himself put away in federal penitentiary to go after these guys. I thought that's great. We could have so much fun doing that. But that's about as far as we got with that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Hi, I was wondering, can we look forward to seeing more of the YouTube short films like Dirty Laundry?
Oh yeah, no, you never say never. I mean, come up with something fun. We've talked about it, you know, and to come up with something that people would really get a kick out of, and what that would be. I don't really know at the moment, but I would never say no. You know,
well, I would certainly look forward to it, and if you did several, and even if you did a crossover with, like I know the MCU does a lot of like multiverse, and if you went with John Berthal's Punisher.
I love Bernthal. We were friendly a long time ago, and he's a great guy. Fantastic actor, and he looks a lot more like the Punisher than I, you know, me with my blonde hair and a little bit. He just got that kind of like thick, like Italian fucking like. He fits the profile. If I was ever gonna direct a Punisher film, I'd use Bernthal, because I think he's terrific. Yeah, when we premiered Dirty Laundry, we didn't say anything about it. We finished the film. And then Comic-Con San Diego was coming up. And so we went down there and we printed up these little flyers, and I bet you some fans who were there that year have these flyers. Like that, I would love to see. Because we printed up these flyers and we didn't say anything. We said, we rented out a room with a big screening room on there, but we didn't tell anybody what it was. But we essentially put on a flyer like, if you're a Punisher fan, you want to be at this room at this time. And we handed them out during the show, and then I think it was a Sunday or something, afternoon, we went into this room, not unlike this room right here, and there's a bunch of people there, and they had no idea what they were gonna see. And we just turned out the lights and ran the fucking thing, and they lost their minds. It was so fun, you know, so cool. Like the people that actually showed up, like, all right, I'll check this out. I don't know, no idea what it's gonna be, but I'm a Punisher fan. Let's see what's going on. And that was a fun moment, really.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thomas Jane, what was your favorite movie to act in?
Hey, I'd say probably 61, because you get to make a movie and play baseball all day. And of course, I fell in love with the sport by learning the sport. And I mean, I played stickball as a kid. You know, you get get one of those old hard cardboard tubing things, right? But they're real thick. And they're about that long. And we used to play stickball with a racquetball, a little racquetball for those guys. And that was really fun. And I got pretty good at that game. That was as close to baseball as I got. But learning how to play baseball, playing the sport, doing it every day, and then making a movie, which I love to do. So it was a great combination. It's probably the most fun. And then you got Billy Crystal, who's cracking jokes all day long. It's hard to beat that one. So I'd say that. And of course, The Punisher was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work. I mean, fuck, man, it was a lot of work.
Thank you.
Great question. All right, we have about 5 minutes left. Go.
The Mist. I introduced my wife to that movie, and she was enjoying it as much as I enjoy it until the end. And she's never gotten over it, and I hate that movie. I never want to see it. I would just love to hear what you have to say about how you worked on that movie.
It's definitely a love-hate relationship with that. You know, people either love it or hate it. And, you know, the twist ending is, of course, something that I always really loved from my love of comic book, the horror comics and the sci-fi comics. They always had a twist ending. And so that was what we were, following that formula, and tell a great story and then twist it at the end where nobody expects it to go there, and it goes there. People love that, right? So it's either like in their top 10 or it's in their bottom fucking 1,000. They're like, never again want to watch that. And you know, they did screw up. The company that released the movie decided that the perfect day to release The Mist would be the family day of the year when most families go see a movie, and that's Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving Day weekend is when they decided, hey, it's a great time, but not Halloween or, any other day of the year. They probably picked the worst day of the year to release that film, because it's all families sitting in the theater. And they're like, oh my God. It was brutal.
Thanks.
Great question.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, what was it like working with Kevin Nash before and after you stabbed him?
Yeah. I had to bring that up, didn't I? Yeah, it's one of the dark days of my career, I'll tell you that. For anybody that doesn't know, I was doing the fight scene with Kevin in The Punisher, and this rarely happens, but it happened, somehow the real knife, somebody forgot to change out the real knife for the prop knife. So, and it's a big scene, I'm swinging around, and I had to grab this thing and stab him, and of course I fucking stabbed him. And it went in probably, something like a ½ inch or something. His breastbone stopped it. But yeah, it was bad. We were looking up at the dude. He's a 1.5 feet taller. I got a knife sticking in him. He just stood there. He just fucking stood there and smiled, which made it even worse. That was a tough day. That was one of those days where, a case of beer just isn't gonna cut it. Not good enough, buddy. But he did. He took it. He was very gracious, and I'll always respect him for that.
All right, we have time for about 1 or 2 more questions.
I'm asking about The Mist also. I loved it. I know Stephen King said that he actually preferred the movie ending over his story. Mm-hmm. Before you went into it, had you read the short story, and which ending do you think is better?
Oh, a big Stephen King fan here. I've read a lot of his books and fell in love with him. Well, as a young person, I still think he's one of the, in 100 years, people are still going to be reading Stephen King. They write him off as a popular novelist or something. He's a fucking craftsman, and he's an artist, and his stuff will live forever because it's so character-based. And Steve, we got to have dinner when we were shooting The Mist, and he said, Stephen King said, you know, if I'd have thought of that ending, that's what I would have written. And that was a pretty great compliment to Darabont.
Thank you. 1922 is awesome.
Of the two vehicles in the Punisher, which one was your favorite? The 68 GTO or the green Plymouth?
Well, I was pushing for a more off the beaten path car. That car, the GTO, is such a classic. It's like so classic that, you know, it's just too popular. It's like, it's not Frank Castle. He's more like, he's got like a Mercury Cougar, you know, or he's got like a Roadrunner. It's like, and that's what I was putting. Of course, they went for the flashy, you know, car, which, so, you know, that was never my favorite. I drove a 69 Camaro convertible, you know, when I was 16. That's what I spent my money on. But it was matte black, and it went straight real fast. You don't want to do too many turns in that car, but it was a great driver, and, you know, so, you know, it's one of the battles I lost.
Yeah, the other people took my questions involving Punisher in the Mist, so that's why I asked about the car.
Right on.
Still a great question.
Appreciate it.
All right, this is going to be the final question. I apologize.
Well, we can go fast.
Are you okay with that? Okay, great.
So yeah, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I really enjoyed your work on The Expanse as Detective Miller. I was wondering if you had any quick humorous stories about what it was like working on that show.
Oh no, it was great. We had a blast. Toronto was freezing, man. We always ended up there in the winter time. You know, so cold that your eyelashes would stick together when you blinked. So that wasn't fun. But you know, the only thing I'll tell you is that I just had a call recently with Amazon, and they were calling me to ask if I would be interested in doing like a Miller spinoff. Is that a good idea? Yeah. You like that idea? Yeah. Yeah, I think, I don't know, that didn't sound too enthusiastic. So I told him, yeah, I said, let's talk about it, you know. So we'll see what happens.
I got a question. Well, would you ever consider doing a horror movie with James Wan as a director?
Yeah, I mean, I love that kind of stuff, you know, but it's really hard to make a good horror movie. I mean, most of them suck balls. It's awful. It's true, man, and I love horror. I watch more horror than I'd like to admit to, because when they're great, when they're good, they're great, right? And then when they suck, they suck.
My question is, there's a scene in The Punisher where you're torturing the character Mickey with a popsicle. How fun was that for you? Did you have to do that over and over again?
Oh yeah, I mean, like we had a lot of popsicles on standby. A fucking freezer full of popsicles. You know, the prop guy had fun on that show. So it was just every day in the office. Thank you.
Hi. So like a lot of people, I really loved Dirty Laundry. So I was wondering, I was really impressed with how much you pack into those 10 minutes. And I've never looked at a bottle of Jack Daniels the same way again. But I was wondering if, is it like really challenging to put that much into 10 minutes versus doing a full-length movie?
Absolutely, you know, in a lot of ways it's the same, you know, you're just telling a story in 10 instead of 100 minutes, and you want to, doing it right, you want to pack, you want to do exactly that, you know, and it's amazing how fast we can follow a story, you know, and that's why I'm not a real big fan of television, because they take fucking 10 years to tell a story that you could have done in a fucking half hour. You know, my daughter was so good at watching Game of Thrones. We'd watch it on the couch and she'd be on her computer and I'd be looking at her, you're not even watching, you know? But she knew exactly when to look up and see the one scene that was cool, and then boom, she'd be back. And I was like, that's like a sixth sense or something. But yeah, you gotta know what the hell you're doing to make a short film. You know, it's more, in a lot of ways, more challenging. Edgar Allan Poe was the master of the short story, And one of the things he said was not there's not one word should be wasted in a short film. Every single word should have a purpose to be there. And we try to do the same thing with film, and we fail a lot at that. But when you get it right, it's really rewarding.
I think you definitely got it right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Our final question.
Yes, it is the final question. Hi, my name is Olivia. Paul Thomas Anderson. I am actually a very big fan of the movie Boogie Nights. I wanted to know if you could just quickly let me know how that experience was working with the late Philip Seymour Hoffman and of course the late Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, I can tell you that I was just like a street punk actor in Hollywood, and got this audition, and ended up getting a call back, and the callback was Philip Seymour Hoffman and John C. Reilly and myself in this office, sitting on a couch, like, and the three of us sit on a couch, and Paul was just like, all right, go. Without any direction or dialogue, nothing. We were just supposed to just sort of hang out on the couch together. And for whatever reason, just that chemistry worked, It was like, and that's what he was doing. He was seeing what actors work best with the actors to create that group, of people. I think we got nominated for a SAG award for Best Ensemble cast, and that's how it's done, It's just let the actors do their thing and live together and see what the dynamic is. And we were cracking him up within like 30 seconds, and it was probably one of the best auditions I've ever had, just because it was so free and so fun.
Well, I thought you did a great job. So thank you very much. Now, who do I give this to?
Right on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, just leave it there. You're good. Thank you, darling.
Thanks for hanging out with me for a little while, folks.
Well, you guys did it September 23rd, and then you also have a show on Amazon right now, correct?
The show on Amazon Freevee is called Troppo. 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 It's an Australian slang for being driven crazy by the tropical heat. The Australians pop off and take their clothes off and start running down the street drunk. He's like, oh, he's going Troppo. So that's the name of the show, and it's pretty darn good. It's getting real good reviews and all that crap. But people have been telling me that they really enjoy it. It's a fun little series. I think we only did like 8 of them or something, so you can burn through it in a weekend. And I would recommend it. It's a good little drama. It's a lot of fun. So that's on Freevee.
Thank you so much. This has been such a joy.
I'll be down at the downstairs, signing some autographs and stuff. So maybe I'll see you guys down there.
Awesome. Thomas Jane, everybody.
Hi, this is Bonnie Gordon, and you're watching Fandom Spotlight. Make sure to like and subscribe before the self-destructs in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just kidding. Have fun and follow your fandom.